Hi students, this is Dr. Ganesham Chauhan. I will today give a presentation on the integumentary system, the system in which the various components are available. For example, the skin, the hair, the nails, the sebaceous glands and the sweat glands. So these are the various elements which are involved into this integumentary system, and the major element is that sensory receptors through which we are getting the sensation. Now in this scheme, if you will see, it is a basic element for homeostasis, and by homeostasis it regulates our body temperature at 37 degrees Celsius. Whether external environment may be having higher temperature or lower temperature, but our internal environment, our skin, will not affect our body's internal temperature. It will try to maintain it 37 degrees Celsius. Another function of this integumentary system is that it senses the external environment regarding the pain sensation or touch sensation or air sensation or any feeling, so that all types of the sensory responses it can be get collected from the skin. It also gives the pleasure sensation by skin. It may be by gestures, by the facial expressions, the sensation like blushing. Blushing is nothing but the feeling of shyness, or frowning means feeling of dislike. So by skin or by facial expression you can understand this type of expressions. Again, if you will see, the skin is always going to be important part of our body, because it is the first line defense organ. Because whatever things are there nearby in our area, so firstly the skin will expose to that. Either it may be sunlight, it may be any injury, it may be any microbial infection, any invasion, or it may be any sort of pollutants which is going to be affect on our body parts. So firstly it will deals with our skin. So skin is always a protective features of for damage. So if skin will be damaged immediately, it can be accompanied by the supply of RBC. The blood will come there and will try to protect against the various functions. Again, the skin color always show us the information. For example, if our skin color becomes blue, it indicates that there is condition of hypoxia. What is hypoxia? It is nothing but the condition when our RBC count of that skin is going to be declined, means hypoxia condition has been developed. Or it is also one of the example that the person is having any heart failure or heart disease. So in that condition also the skin color become bluish. In case of death person also, by identification of that skin color we can identify that person is dead or not. The color of skin also going to be changed in case of the condition like diarrhea, when the skin becomes very pale and very scanty and very dry. Also the skin can shows your body texture, any scar present on your body. For example, the scar due to the chickenpox, or any wrinkle due to the aging, or if you are having any burning patches on your skin, so it can be easily shown by your skin. And the skin eruption also can be easily identified by your naked eyes. Now the people are investing lots of money on the skin for beautification purpose, because the skin is having a very high status in the society. For that the people are investing too much money in that, and there is a special department which governs this integumentary system. That department is called as Department of Dermatology, which deals with the skin function, structure and their diseases. Skin covers the external surface of the body. The skin is also called as cutaneous membrane, and skin covers almost 2 meter square meter area of the body, means it is 22 square feet. It is the largest organ of the body by surface. The skin is having the total 7% weight of our body. So that's why skin is the largest organ of our body. So it is having the weight near about 4.5 to 5 kg of our body. Skin has two layers. First is epidermis, which is the outer layer. The epidermis is don't have any blood circulation. It is a avascular, means it is nothing but the dead cells. Second is dermis. It is the inner layer. It is made up of connective tissue, and the epidermis is made up of the epithelial tissue. So the dermis, it is a connective tissue, and which is the vascularized. It is supplied with the lots of blood vessels. The sweat glands excrete the sweat through the pores. So here you can see the sweat glands are there. So they are through the pores, the sweat will comes out. So whatever the the material, waste material, the excreta is there, so it can be thrown through the spores. So that's why the spores should be open. So when you are washing our face, when you are washing our skin, the pores are open, and due to which the waste material will come out. And when we are not washing the area, when the oil will be deposited on the pores, so it may leads into the pimples, it may leads into the various skin infections. Sweat is made up of area, salt and water. Bodies is a body's first line defense. So whenever our skin will be ruptured, so at that time the invasion will occur, means the external microbes or the pathogen will try to enter into our body through skin. So that's why the skin is the first line defense. So from here the fighting against that pathogen will start, and at this place the various blood cells, the RBC, WBC will come here, and they will try to kill that pathogens. That's why it is called as first line defense. The skin is having the combination of four main tissues. That first is epithelial tissues, which is the most outer layer of our skin, and this epithelial tissue it produces the epidermis. Second is connective tissue, which underlies the dermis, and this dermis is having the blood vessels. Third is smooth muscles, so with goose bumps. So these smooth muscles are responsible for the transportation of the sensory neuron from one place to the other place, and these smooth muscles are having responsible for movement of our skin or to have the sensation. And the last is nervous tissue. So the sensory receptors are there, they are accompanied with the smooth muscles, so they are having major function to show the responses, to show the external stimuli to our skin, means whatever things are revolve into our skin, or if any external stimuli is there, so it can be immediately signalized by these sensory receptors, and the information will reach to our brain, and brain will take the action against them. For example, if our skin is burning due to anything, so that burning sensation will reach to our brain, and brain will immediately take action against that, and it will give the order to remove that part of skin from the burning area. So in this fashion the skin will give that responses. Next, the functions of skin. So the skins are having several functions that we will discuss one by one. In that, first is protection. So the protection is the major function of skin because it is the first line defense organ. Whenever our skin is going to be rupture or cut, so at that time the foreign pathogen will going to be enter into our body, so skin won't allow to entry of that foreign pathogen, so the blood vessels will immediately release the RBC WBC and they will fight against that pathogens. And also our body is going to be kill various pathogens which are automatically done by the our macrophages. Next is temperature regulations. Our skin is going to be do the major function of homeostasis, is going to be maintained regularly whether the external temperature is high or low, but our skin is try to maintain them. Means it works as a insulator because the skin is having various layers, so the adipose tissue means in the subcutaneous layer they are containing the fats and it acts as a insulator, so that they are not allowing to skin to completely cool or to completely hot, so they are avoiding from the burning. Also sensations, so the skin is having major function of sensation also. Whatever the sense the external stimuli is giving, for example the tingling sensation or pain or touching something, or if there is any uh, rough surface is going to be attached to our skin, so that sensation immediately gives to our brain and we can take action on that. Next is storage of chemical compounds. Skin will store the various chemical compounds, various electrolytes. It contains the various sebaceous gland, the sebum it also contains the sweat, it also contains the various elements which are required for our skin. And also it is going to be stored the content which are required as a trace element for our body. Excretion of waste. The skin is nothing but the best excretory organ of our body. It excretes the various excreta in the form of sweat or in the form of the sebum. Means that excretory gland, that sweat gland, will throw that sweat in the form of perspiration through the skin. Means the skin is doing the respiration, is doing the breathing through the pores of the skin, and by doing that the skin is maintaining its tone. Skin is also absorbing water and also it is releasing the oil, extra oil if it contains from inside. Skin is also the synthesis of compounds, so it will synthesize the melanin inside the skin. It will also going to be synthesize the sebum which is required at the time of the secretion of oil. So it is also going to be synthesized major component, it is called vitamin D, from the source of sunlight. So by using the sunlight from morning sunlight, sun rays, they are get converted into the vitamin D, which is very vital for our body. It also determines the characteristics. For example, the skin or color tone of skin shows your age. Means if the wrinkles are there, so by that way we can easily identify the age of that person, and by the color or the texture of the skin also we can identify the gestures or the mood of the persons. So in this fashion there are the various things that we can identify by the skin. Now here the skin you can see, so in that the epidermis layer is here, which is the outermost layer which contains the epithelial cells. Second is dermis layer, it is having this much size, and this is the subcutaneous layer which contains this yellow color adipose tissue. Here the fats has been stored, and this adipose tissue are required, the fat is required to have a insulation for the internal organ. Means they are responsible for maintenance of temperature inside the body, which they won't allow to completely cool or completely burn the our internal organs. So they are maintaining the homeostasis. Also, if you see, the skin is also having the reticular layers, the papillae layers, and here the mucinous corpuscle is available here. After that, the erectile pili muscle is also there, and here the pores of sweat gland ducts. From here, the sweat glands will open and the sweat will come outside. Here is the hair shaft. This is the hair follicles. This is the sweat gland ducts. This is the pacinial corpuscle, the sweat glands. This is the artery, vein, fats. This all comes under the category of cutaneous flexures. Now we will start from the epidermis. Epidermis. It is the outer layer of dead skin cells called cuticle. This is layer you see every day. From external, the layer which you can see every day. Ashiness is caused by the layer of dead skin cells being very rough and raggedy. Dust you see around is made up of dead skin cells. Under the cuticle is another layer of living epithelial cells that make up the rest of the epidermis. If you will see the epidermis cells are made up of 4 types of cells. Especially the first is keratinocytes, second is the melanocytes, third is Langerhans cells, and the fourth is Merkel cells. Now if you will see, the keratinocytes are almost having 90% of the total populations. The keratinocytes are embedded into the several layers, means 4 to 5 layers they are having, and they are containing the specific protein. It is called as keratin, and we know, we have already discussed in connective tissue that this keratin protein is responsible for to have a protective function for these keratinocytes. They are fighting against the bacteria. They are also they are strong enough to protect against any rupture or to any injury. They are very tough, and they are also protecting from the abrasion, from the heat, and from the various microbes and chemicals, and also the various pollutants. Epidermis and dermis. So epidermis is avascular, as we saw earlier. There is no blood vessels. The dermis is highly vascular, has blood vessels. The epidermis receives the nourishment from the dermis. The cells far away from the nourishment dry. So the whatever cells which are available, which are far away from the nourishment, means from the dermis, so they can die. Now if you will see the epidermis. Second cell in the epidermis is melanocytes. It is almost 8% of the epidermal cells, and they develop from the ectoderm of a developing embryo and produce the pigment melanin. Their long, slender projections extend between the keratinocytes and transfer melanin granules to them. Melanin is a yellow, red, or brown to black pigment that contributes to the skin color and absorbs damaging ultraviolet light. Now the third cell, that is Langerhans cells. It is also called as epidermal dendritic cells. They arise from the red bone marrow and migrate to the epidermis, where they constitute a small fraction of epidermal cell. They participate in the immune response, mount against the microbes that invade the skin, and are easily damaged by the UV rays. Next is Merkel cell. They are least numerous of the epidermis cells. They are located in the deepest layer of the epidermis. where they contact the flattened processes of the sensory neurons, and the structure called as Merkel tactile or Merkel disc. The Merkel cells and their associated Merkel disc detects touch sensation. Now we will see the various layers of the epidermis. Now epidermis is having the several layers. In that, the first layer is, it is called as stratum corneum. After that, the second is stratum lucidum. After that, the stratum granulosum, and stratum spinosum, and stratum germinativum. So after that, the dermis will start. Now we will start one by one. In that, first is stratum basal. So it is the deepest layer of the epidermis in the stratum basal. It is composed of single row of cuboidal or columnar keratinocytes. Some cells in the layer are stem cells that undergo cell division to continually produce new keratinocytes. The nuclei of keratinocytes in the stratum basale are large, and their cytoplasm contains many ribosomes, a small Golgi complex, a few mitochondria, and some rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now the second is stratum spinosum. So you can see here stratum spinosum. It is the superficial to the stratum basal in the stratum spinosum. This stratum mainly consists of numerous keratinocytes arranged in 8 to 10 layers. The cells in the more superficial layer becomes somewhat flattened. The keratinocytes in the stratum spinosum, which are produced by the stem cells in the basal layer. Now we will switch over to the next type. It is called as stratum granulosum. At about the middle of epidermis, the stratum granulosum consists of 3 to 5 layers of flattened keratinocytes, which contains the keratin, and that are undergo the process of apoptosis. What is apoptosis? It is nothing but the programmed cell death. When the cell kills itself with a program, so that process is called as apoptosis. So they are killing themselves by a self-killing process. It is called as apoptosis. And the nuclei and the other organelles of these cells begin to degenerate as they move further from their source of nutrition. Even though keratin intermediate filaments are no longer being produced by these cells. A distinctive features of these cells layers in presence of darkly staining granules of protein are called as keratohyalin, which is assemble keratin intermediate filaments into keratin. They also present in the keratinocytes are membrane enclosed laminar granules. Now we will discuss regarding the next, that is stratum lucidum. This is the layer stratum lucidum. Here also, it is present only in the thick skin of areas such as fingerprints, palms, and soles. It consists of 4 to 6 layers of flattened, clear, dead keratinocytes that contain a large amount of keratin and thickened plasma membranes. They probably provides an additional levels of toughness in these regions of thick skin. And the last is stratum corneum. This is the largest area of the epidermis, stratum corneum. The stratum corneum consists of average 25 to 30 layers of flattened dead keratinocytes, but can range a thickness from the few cells in thin skin to 50 or more cells layers of thick skins. Means there are 50 layers of skins. Means it is very tough. The cells are extremely thin, flat, plasma membrane enclosed packed of keratin. They are having keratin proteins that no longer contain a nuclear or any internal organelles. Even they don't have any blood vessels. They are the final product of differentiation process of keratinocytes, and the cells within each layer overlap one another like the scales of the skin of a snake. So students, in this session we have discussed the various layers of the epidermis. Now we will start from the dermis. So in this figure you can see the dermis layer is there. So here you can see the pores, artery, veins, because the dermis contains the supply of blood vessels. It is the second deeper part of the skin. It is composed of dense irregular connective tissue that containing collagen and elastic fibers. This woven network of fibers has great tensile strength, means they are very tensile, means you can stretch them, they can come to back their original position. The dermis also has ability to stretch and recoil easily. It is much thicker than epidermis, and this thickness varies from cell to cell. It is a thick layer under the epidermis and it contains blood vessels. It is having high range of blood vessels supplied with this dermis. It is also having the oil glands. If you see, the various oil glands are also available. It is also having the sweat glands. If you see, sweat glands and the oil glands are also available here. It is also having the hair follicles. The roots of the hair follicles, they can come from the dermis layer. So they are the cells from where the various elements has been emerged, and they are also having the fat tissue. The papillary region makes up about the 1/5 of the thickness of the total layer. It consists of thin collagen and the fine elastic fibers. Its surface area is greatly increased by the dermal papillae, a small nipple-shaped structure that projects into under surface of the epidermis. All dermal papillae contains papillary loops. Some also contain tactile receptor that is called as Meissner's corpuscle. So that Meissner corpuscle is the nothing but the corpuscles of touch, the nerve ending that sensitive to the touch. Still other dermal papillae also contain the free nerve endings. That Meissner corpuscle are responsible for the transmission of the impulses of the sensory nerve areas or nerve endings. The reticular region, which attaches to the subcutaneous layer, consists of bundles of thick collagen fibers, scattered fibroblasts, and various wandering cells. Some adipose cells can present in the deepest part of the layer, along with some coarse elastic fibers. The collagen fibers in the reticular region are arranged in the net-like manner and have more regular arrangement than those in the papillary region. The combination of collagen and elastic fibers in the reticular region provide the skin with strength, extensibility, and elastability, means that cell is having the stretchability property. The extensibility of skin can readily seen around the joints of the pregnancy and obesity. Now, because of the Meissner's corpuscle, the dermis is also having ability to show fingerprints on touching to the smooth objects. So the fingerprints can be there. The epidermal ridge pattern in this part genetically determines the unique identification code, means each and every person is having their unique fingerprints. Normally the ridge pattern does not change during the life except to enlarge, and thus can serve as a basis for identification. The study of pattern of epidermis ridges are called as dermatoglyphics, and they are having the connective tissue like collagen fibers, and they are also having the extracellular matrix. Now deeper layer of epidermis. So they are having the dense connective tissue which contains the blood vessels, glands, deep pressure receptors, the receptors which sensing the pressure from the environment and attaches to the underlying organs of the subcutaneous layer. The loose connective tissue packed with the adipose cells stabilizes positions of the skin. So they are maintaining the position of the skin. They won't allow to move the position of skin from one place to the another place. Fingerprints, as we have discussed recently, so each and every person is having their unique identification code. So the fingerprints are gives that unique identification codes. Now with the help of this Aadhaar, we are taking these fingerprints and we are identifying the person by their fingerprints. So here is the opening of sweat glands in the fingerprint also you can see, and the epidermal ridges are there. So there is some calculations, they are having some numbers by which they are identifying their each fingerprints number of the typical person. So the epidermis contains the hair, glands and the nails. Now the functions of hair. If you see functions of hair, the first function is to do the protection, and it protects from the external resources which it sensitizes the environment, it sensitizes the external touch. Hairs are very sensitive to touch, so they are sensitizing them. Now next is thermoregulations. So hairs are also responsible for maintenance of the temperature, they are doing thermoregulations. And sensory, for each and every senses, the hairs are more prone to have that sensory neuron. If you will touch to any skin, first the hair will be touched, and from that hair the sensory neuron will carry forward towards the brain, and they are also having the minor role into the humans. Now if you see the hair structures, actually the hairs are not too much studied in details in this chapter for in our syllabus. The skin is the major role into our chapter. Now if you see the hair, here having the shaft, it is superficial portion of the hair. It is also having roots, it is below the surface. Cuticle, it is the outermost layer of the hair, and here develops the follicles. It is downward continuous of the epidermis. Now hair structure. If you see the hair structure, it is look like this here. So it contains the connective tissue sheath. It is also having the erector pili muscles. What is erector pili muscle? That we will see later on. Again, it is also having provided with the sebaceous glands. After that, this is the hair shoot, the cortex of hair, connective tissue. Hairs are present in almost all the layers of the skin except palm, palmar surface, fingers and soles. The plantar surface of the feet. So here you will find these hairs. Also it is available into the armpit, in the axilla part, and also nearby genita it is available. Although the protection of it offers is limited, hair on the head guards the scalp from the injury and the sun's rays. It also decreases the heat loss from the scalp. The eyebrows and the eyelashes protect the eyes from foreign particles, similar to the way hair in the nostrils and the external ear canals defends those structures. Touch receptors, hair root plexus associated with the hair follicles, are activated whenever the hair is moved even slightly. Thus, hair also function in sensing light touch. Now, this is the anatomy of hair. If you will see, each hair is composed of column of head keratinized epidermal cells bonded together by the extracellular proteins. The shaft of the superficial portion of hair which projects above the surface of the skin. The root of the portion of hair dips the shaft that penetrates into the dermis. Surround the root of hair is the hair follicle. So you can see the hair follicle is there, and which is made up of the external root sheath and the internal root sheath, together referred as a epithelial root sheath. The external root sheath is downward continuation of the epidermis. The internal root sheath is produced by the matrix. Now in this fashion, the various areas are here that we have discussed recently. Growth of hair. At the base of the follicle, hair papilla contains the blood vessels and the nerves and nourishes the hair. Bulbs, which contain the matrix and epithelial cells, they are responsible for the growth. They contain the melanocytes. The melanocytes, which gives the natural color to our skin. These melanocytes are stimulated or secreted by the pituitary gland from the anterior pituitary by the hormone melanocyte stimulating hormone, and due to which it decides the color of our skin. When these melanocytes are come in contact with the UV rays, so it will start to secrete and it can change the color of our skin as well. Erectile pili. It is a smooth muscle attached to the follicle which raises hair. So erectile pili is nothing but is a part of epidermal cell which are connected deeply to the dermis, and they are nothing but the sensory elements. They are sensory cell which are responsible for the erection of our hair. They are having major function erection of our hair. So whenever there is any sensory or any stimuli will be there from the external environment, our hair are showing the response by erection of hair, and that occurs only due to the erector pili. That's why they are called as erector pili. They are responding to the fright and the cold. Glands. The sebaceous glands connect to the hair follicles. They secrete a waxy oily substances. It is called as sebum, and blackheads also. If the sebum not secreting outside, when that pore is going to be closed, so it will develop into the blackheads, and the blackheads need to be removed from the skin, otherwise it will looks very black colored and it will changes the texture of our skin. Secretion increases at puberty. So as the hormonal changes will occur, the secretion will be increased, and the pimples development of the blackheads or the more oily, more sebum will secrete due to that hormones. Sebaceous glands. Here you can see sebaceous glands are there. So they are responsible for production of sebum, and it will comes out during perspiration. During that sweating, it will comes out. Regularly it comes out. And in winter season, it protects our skin from the dryness. So it maintain and retain the moisture and also oiliness into our skin. Glands. Sweat glands, found just about everywhere, produces perspiration. It contains water, salt and the minerals and waste materials, and functions it's cooling the body. And scent glands, specific type of sweat glands found near the hair follicles. They are axillary and the genital regions and develops at the puberty. The skin with the sweat glands. Here you can see the sweat glands are available there, and they are responsible. These sweat glands are there. The sweat will comes out through the pores, and also you will see this is the mucinous corpuscle here. So it is responsible for the sensation. It is one of the sensory elements, and also for the hair shaft. Here are also having the hair follicles, and this is responsible for the sensation. So in this fashion, the skin, we are discussing the various parts. Next, somatic senses. General somatic, it includes touch. So whatever touch we are getting from external person or external stimulus. Touch, pain, if you are having any pain, vibration, pressure, temperature. So it can be sensitized by the somatic senses. Somatic nervous system. Proprioception detects stretch in the tendons and muscle, provides information on body positions, orientations, and the movement of the body in space. So whatever action is there, it can be shown by our body, it can be signalized by our skin. So external stimuli, or if you are giving any order to our body to pick up the phone, so that order can be done exactly. So it occurs due to the sensory stimuli, it occurs due to the somatic senses. So the skin is touching that mobile, so it know it is a mobile. So like that, the sensory work can be done from these sensory neurons, which are joined directly towards our brain, means in the cerebral cortex of our brain, and towards your sensory part of your skin or your body. Somatic receptors, they divide into two groups: free or uncapsulated nerve endings. The capsulated nerve endings consist of one or more neural end fibers enclosed into the connective tissue. So there is major role of this Merkel receptors. Here you can see Merkel cells are there. Out of these 4 cells, Merkel cells are there. They are also having the great role into the sensations. And another, the Pacinius corpuscles there. They are responsible for the vibration. And here the Ruffini corpuscles are there. They respond to the skin stretch. Skin will be stretched, so the sensation can be given by this Ruffini corpuscle. And the sensory nerves, they carry signals to the spinal cord. And the prenerve endings of nociceptor responses to the noxious stimulus, means any negative stimulus, any pain occurs if you are touching or if you are doing rupturing of our epidermis. So that type of sensation can be carried out by these free nerve endings. And this is the free nerve ending of hair root, also senses the hair movement. If hair will move by the air also, or if a mosquito will be touched to your skin, so it can be sensitized by your hair. So that mosquito sensation can be sensitized by the hair and signals to the brain. Prenerve endings abundant in the epithelia and the underlying connective tissue. Nociceptor respond to the pain. Thermoreceptor is respond to the temperature. And two specialized types of prenerve endings, like Merkel disc, they lie into the epidermis and slowly adapting receptors for light touch. Hair follicle receptors, rapidly adapting receptor that wrap around the hair follicles. So here you can see how this illustration is there. Next is encapsulated nerve endings in the Mason's corpuscle. They are spiraling nerve endings surrounded by Schwann cell. These Schwann cells are nothing but the neuroglia cells. They are one of the type of neuroglia, and which occurs into the dermal papillae of the hairless area of the skin, rapidly adapting receptors for discriminative touch. The Pacinian corpuscle, they are single nerve endings surrounded by a layer of flattened Schwann cell, occurs in the hypodermis and sensitive to the deep pressure. If any pressure will come, so it will sensitize by this Pacinian corpuscle and rapidly adapting receptors. The Pacinian corpuscle located in the dermis and respond to the pressure and monitor continuous pressure in the skin and adapted slowly. Again, the monitor stretch and the locomotory organs. There are 3 types of receptors. They are muscle spindles. They monitor the changing into the length of the muscles embedded in the perimysium between muscle fascicles. And Golgi tendons organs located near the muscle tendon junctions monitor tension within the tendons. What is tendon? Tendon which joins your muscle to the bones. If any tension is there, it can be signalized by this Golgi tendons. Joint kinesthetic receptors, sensory nerve endings within the joint corpuscle, sense pressure and positions. Here you can see the muscle fibers are there. They are connected with this Golgi tendon organs. So here you can see, and how they are responding immediately. Means if we have to raise the hands, if somebody on hand, if mosquito is biting you, so immediately the muscle will be affected and we will raise our hand. So that response can be shown by this, with the help of these muscle Golgi tendons. These Golgi tendons are responsible for movement of these muscles. Nail structure: nail contains nail body, free edge, nail root, matrix and lunula. Here you can see this is the dermis part, epidermis, and this is the pharynx bone of the fingertip, and this is the part of lunula. The part of nail, the external part of nail, it is called as lunula. It is the eponychium, just the area which hold that nails, it is called eponychium. And this is the proximal nail fold, and the nail roots are the from where the nails will emerge. And this is the hyponychium, it is the below part which attaches the nails from the below part, so from the finger part, so it is called hyponychium. And this is the nail body. So in this fashion we have discussed regarding the structure of nails. The skin also helps to control the body temperature, homeostasis. So students, I hope you understood today's concepts of integumentary system, in which we have discussed regarding the skin. So for today this is sufficient. So have a nice day, and if you have any problem, please ask me and give me your response. Have a nice day.